Visceral fat is the belly fat you can't pinch, and it's the one that wraps your organs and quietly drives risk. In a controlled sleep lab study, just 2 weeks of sleeping 4 hours a night was linked to about an 11% rise in visceral fat, before most people would even think anything's changing. That's why ab workouts and fat burn cardio can feel useless. You can't spot burn, and the mirror is always late to the story. Imagine your organs wearing a tight, inflammatory belt that loosens only when the right signals change. In this video, you'll see what happens to visceral fat when you use this method, why it can start dropping first, and how to tell it's happening even before your waistline catches up. Here's the tricky part. Visceral fat can change your health for a long time before it changes your reflection. In medical terms, it's tied to insulin resistance and higher cardiometabolic risk, basically your body running under more internal pressure. Picture that tight belt around your organs again, slowly squeezing while your weight looks normal enough. You usually feel it in small ways first: a tighter waistband, lower energy, heavier breathing, and louder late-night cravings. The good news is this method can flip those signals fast, so in the early stretch you often notice relief before you see it. Now let's walk through what that looks like. Phase 1. You stop feeding the hidden belly. Visceral fat is the deep, organ-hugging kind, not the soft layer you can pinch, and it behaves like a tight belt. This method starts by changing the one signal it listens to: energy balance. A consistent calorie deficit, not a perfect day, a repeatable week, tells your body it's time to spend stored fuel. The mirror usually shows up late to the meeting, but inside, that belt starts loosening because your body has to draw energy from somewhere. Visceral fat is also wired into metabolism because it sits close to the organs and funnels a lot of its traffic toward the liver, which is why it's linked with insulin trouble and inflammation. In the first couple weeks, you may only notice boring wins, less bloating after meals, steadier energy, fewer random cravings, because the inside often improves before the outside. And if you're tempted to fight it with 400 crunches, remember, your body doesn't speak Spock burn. Evidence notes that targeting one area with exercise doesn't reliably remove fat from that same area. So you stop wasting effort and start flipping the switch that actually moves visceral fat. Phase 2. You make the deficit livable so it lasts long enough to matter. The 20 favorite foods idea is brilliant. Build most meals from foods you genuinely enjoy across the main groups: protein, carbs, fats, fruits, veggies, dairy. Then keep a couple YOLO foods on purpose so you don't end up eating sadness from the pantry at midnight. Adherence is the whole game. The deficit only works if it's still happening next week, when work is messy and motivation is on vacation. In life, this looks like swaps that don't feel like punishment: more protein at breakfast, a normal plate at dinner, fewer liquid calories, and a plan you can repeat. And when you slip, you don't restart Monday. You just eat the next meal like a grown adult. That's how you build a method you can actually stay on. Phase 3, visceral fat can start shifting before the scale behaves, and exercise is the quiet accelerator. People assume exercise doesn't work if weight doesn't drop, but visceral fat often responds to movement even when the scale is being dramatic. Reviews in the sports medicine literature discuss visceral fat reductions with exercise interventions, including findings where exercise produced reductions even without weight loss in some contexts. Translation: your waistband can start relaxing while your bathroom scale is making things up. Early on, many people notice the same pattern. Walking feels easier, post-meal sleepiness fades, and that "my stomach is pushing back" feeling after big meals starts to quiet down. Those internal wins can show up in real life before the mirror gives you credit. Phase 4, you protect the engine, because the best-looking fat loss is the kind that keeps muscle. Resistance training during a deficit tells the body, keep the machinery, burn the storage, helping you avoid the smaller but softer finish line. But there's a trap. When people diet, daily movement often drops without noticing. Less pacing, fewer steps, more couch gravity, what researchers call NEAT, and it tends to decrease during negative energy balance. That's why simple activity rules can be clutch. Walk more, take stairs, park farther, or add a few short cardio sessions so your expenditure doesn't quietly shrink while your appetite tries to negotiate a raise. You prevent the sneaky slowdown that makes visceral fat feel stuck. Phase 5. Protein is your seatbelt. In a deficit, your body will burn fat and sometimes a little muscle, like a roommate who accidentally eats your leftovers. Adequate protein helps preserve lean mass and helps you feel full enough to stay consistent. A large BJSM meta-analysis suggests that for many people doing resistance training, benefits for lean mass tend to level off around roughly 1.6 g/kg/day of protein. Realistic, not a punishment. Practical life version, you're less hungry, you keep your shape, and your results look like fat loss instead of I just got smaller. Phase 6. Sleep is either a multiplier or a saboteur. If visceral fat is a fire, sleep loss is gasoline. In a Mayo Clinic inpatient crossover study, 2 weeks of restricted sleep, 4 hours in bed, increased total abdominal fat and increased abdominal visceral fat by about 11% compared with control sleep. And even when calories are controlled, sleep changes what you lose. A 2010 clinical study found that shorter sleep during dieting reduced the proportion of weight lost as fat and increased fat-free mass loss. In real life, good sleep turns down late-night cravings, improves training quality, and makes the deficit feel less like white-knuckling. You stop fighting your biology with one eye open. Phase 7. You steer fat distribution when life isn't perfect, and you stay long enough for the belly to finally catch up. When calories creep up, travel, holidays, stress, fat quality matters more than people think. In the LipoGain randomized trial by Rosquist and colleagues, overfeeding saturated fat led to more liver fat and more abdominal fat gain than overfeeding polyunsaturated fat. Translation: you don't need fear foods, you set smarter defaults most days. More unsaturated fats, fewer saturated heavy binges, so a little off plan doesn't become visceral fat's retirement fund. And here's the belly last truth. For many people, the stomach is the last place to look different, even while the inside is improving. Track more than your reflection. Waist size, how jeans fit, gym performance, energy, sleep cravings. Because a lot of people quit right before it gets good. Stay consistent long enough and visceral fat backs off quietly, and the visible belly finally gets the memo. Before you scroll, hit like and subscribe. Then drop a comment with the one change you're actually willing to do for the next 7 days. Make it specific: a walk after dinner, a protein goal, lights out earlier, anything you can repeat. If you've tried before and got stuck, tell me where it fell apart, because that's usually the real problem. I read the comments and I pull future videos from what you all struggle with. Now here's the point. You don't need a perfect plan, you need a workable one. Start small today and let momentum do the heavy lifting. Give it a week of consistency and pay attention to how you feel. If this helps, share it with one friend who's doing everything but still frustrated. I'll see you in the next one.